welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Nonprofit Show. I think this is going to be one of those things that, for me, this show makes a huge impact and might even change some of the ways we're doing business here at the Nonprofit Show. So, no pressure, Kris Johns. Welcome. I'm really excited to have you with us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about CTV advertising and how this can relate to nonprofits. It's one of those things that you might be like, what? And then once we start talking with Kris today, you're going to be like, I totally get it and I want to be a part of it. And so this is going to be one of those things that I think is not to be missed. What's not to be missed are our amazing partners. And they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Interim Executives Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, Fundraisers Friday, and our newest member of our team, Holdings for Good. They are a bank for nonprofits. So we are super excited to have them with us because, we talk about banking and finance and accounting and all things related to that. And so super cool to welcome Holdings. I'm Julia C. Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. And I'm delighted to meet and talk with Kris Johns. He's the CEO and founder of AdGood, adgood.org. Okay, talk to us about what AdGood is.
So AdGood is a 501c3 nonprofit. We work directly with large-scale publishers and platforms to donate their unused inventory to us. We then have put together our own ad stack where we manage all this inventory, and we make that inventory only available to other nonprofits. These are the only people that can access this inventory. And we've done all this in a way so that we can actually give them that inventory at a much higher reduced rate, like up to 70% off.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to dig into this because it's absolutely fascinating. And if you have ever watched anything on, I'm going to call it modern television or streaming, you will have seen what I call dead air. Yeah. And I watch a lot of baseball, and even on the MLB streaming network, which you would think is pretty sufficient in terms of capturing an audience, they just have this like baseball that just flips around. We've all seen the moment of Zen. I mean, it's for me, in my mind, dead air space. And so let's kind of start off with that CTV piece of it and how this is all working. So what is CTV to start with? Because I've got
so CTV is essentially any television that's connected to the internet, really, more or less. Any smart TV with built-in apps, as well as other devices that plug into these smart TVs that also connect to the internet, like Fire Sticks, Roku, Apple TV, all that good stuff. So that's kind of the core piece of it. And the thing that makes CTV really unique is that you get the largest screen in the home, you get that high quality aspect of what the content is, those 30-second ad spaces, but you get the power of what digital advertising can do with targeting, with attribution, with all kinds of good aspects of getting, what digital can give you as far as marketing campaigns go. But you're also getting, that large screen in the home aspect where you can really build brand and kind of tell your story. And it's really conducive to these kind of more deeply emotional types of campaigns.
So it seems to me, though, I love what you just said, and I totally get it. But it seems to me like the rest of the world's not getting it, because when you're watching, CTV, you don't see a lot of ads. You see that dead space, and you see that they have, I'm going to use the word filler. I don't think that's the appropriate word, but that's why I'm so excited to have you on the Nonprofit Show, because it seems to me that there is a lot of inventory. I mean, so if we start with that premise, is that correct? That there's a lot of inventory?
Yes, so there's a lot of inventory, there's a lot of viewership. CTV is really completely taken off. I think 43% of all viewership is all on across internet-driven TV, which is CTV. And what you're talking about with ad slates, that's kind of the dead space that you're calling it, that they call ad slate. And essentially that ties to a lot of aspects too, because across all of streaming, they're seeing a big, growth in viewership, but the ads are still kind of pumping over. So there's aspects of what's going on where, I think it's roughly across the industry, it's like 35% of the inventory goes unfilled, if not more in some cases.
Wow. Okay, so that's huge. That's a huge amount of inventory ad slate that's just sitting there. And once that time passes, it's not like you can get it back, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it just it's like that ad space opportunity is missed. They're not going to regenerate that money. So how can nonprofits get involved in this concept when they haven't even thought of this?
Yeah, so in that space too, there's other aspects. Like there's a lot of unfilled inventory, but advertising is also seasonal. So there's going to be a lot more fill in Q3 and an extreme amount of fill in Q4. So that there is a variant as far as what that fill rate is across streaming. So as far as having access to this inventory, it's more or less why we created AdGood, because there really wasn't much access. The current existing model for how donated inventory has always worked since broadcast specifically has never been truly programmatic and oriented around the aspect of publishers being able to always donate inventory all the time. It's just more or less one, they can't monetize it. It's always been like, oh, we'll give you a chunk of impressions, like 1 million or 5 million a month, and you kind of run that however you want. But you get limited reporting because you're kind of beholden to what you're getting back from those specific publishers. Whereas the way that AdGood set it up, it's much different and it's much more empowering for what we're doing for the nonprofits, because we actually just sit at the bottom of the ad stack for how all of the different monetizations are set up for the publishers. So we kind of more or less sit at the bottom. So anything that they don't fill, we get access to. And because of that, and we run purely programmatically, we're able to give really robust reporting, all real time if need be, depending on how the nonprofit would like it. And it really empowers them to adjust things, right? Because in a lot of aspects of the old model, you get allocated amounts of impressions. And when you have a campaign that's doing amazing and you want to juice it up and add some more dollars to it so that you can get that really good return on ad spend, you can't, because you're limited. So with us, you can kind of juice it up or not, depending on how you want to move your budget and depending on the success of your campaigns. So you're truly able to run this as you would any other campaign, say on Facebook or sorry, I should say Meta, or Google AdWords in these other scenarios. Like you want to be able to move and shake and really get as much power as you can when you're actually running these campaigns.
Right. It's so interesting because I'm thinking like way back when the FCC on regular television really forced the broadcast stations to offer up their, a certain percentage, albeit small, of ad space. It was always at like 2 in the morning, right? And if you were up watching, on a Tuesday night at 2 or 3 in the morning, that's when you would see the nonprofit ads, come in. And it was always like, wow, it's great to say, yeah, we're on TV, but who's watching it? And so I love that you're bringing in the qualitative issue or the quantitative issue, excuse me, of viewership. That's like just great.
We do hear that a lot, what you said. There's that question comes up a lot as far as like when will these ads show up? And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a reason we've added actually impressions by day part for our reporting, just so that the nonprofits can see on a regular basis where their ads are showing up. They can also target by day part if that's what they're looking for. If they want later in the afternoon or these other aspects, we can do that stuff. It's all completely handled in our platform, and we handle all of that for you. But I think for them to see that the impressions are evenly kind of put throughout the day, it brings a lot more value, I think, because I think this has happened a lot to a lot of the nonprofits for as far as donated inventory and how it's worked.
Yeah, I absolutely think it has. And, this is an issue too of, inventory management. When there's so much inventory out there, it's easier to flow it differently and more judiciously. But when we had three networks that dominated, and maybe in some communities an added independent
Yeah.
station, I mean, the inventory was already so tight. Yeah, it's really an interesting thing. I just love talking to you about this. So we understand the platform, we understand the inventory, we understand the issue of, promotion and connecting up. Let's move to the nuts and bolts. And how would a nonprofit even get an ad ready to go on CTV? Because let's face it, for a lot of nonprofits, just getting a static ad for, socials or their own website or their own email blast is a challenge. So what advice can you give us so that we can be putting forth, our branding?
Yeah, so there's a couple different scenarios. We work with nonprofits that have agencies. We work with nonprofits that have access to editors and other scenarios to be able to create really great, content that they can put together for an ad. And all those core elements kind of follow the same. They come in with the hook. They really come at you with the heart and the emotional moment that they really want to tie to as far as the mission and impact. And then they have the action, like the clear, compelling call to action. But I think outside of generating it yourself, we saw this need when we launched what we did. And so with AdGood, we really wanted to make sure that we were helping all nonprofits, not just the big ones that can do all the things that are required to be able to run media. We want to help the very small localized nonprofits as well. And so with that, we've actually licensed and worked with a partner called streamer.ai so that we have a self-serve Gen AI ad manager where any nonprofit can go into our website. It's just am.adgood.org. And essentially go in, type in the URL to their website. It generates a 30-second video ad that's completely editable via chat prompt. You can go in and change your script. You can upload new images. You can upload videos. You can change the animations. You can select different templates if you want more Instagram oriented or any of those scenarios. We're going to be rolling out VEO3 from Google. That's a really high-end, more or less automated way for you to generate really good quality videos from imagery. And then also too, once you've kind of gotten to a scenario where you like it and you want to adjust things like language, there's multiple languages you can select, multiple different music titles that you can pull in. And additionally, you can also translate it in up to 30 different languages and dialects. And then it's all done within this simple tool. It also helps you with targeting. So you put all the attributes that you're trying to get. Say you want Des Moines, female between 18 to 56 or something like that, and you want it in specific zip codes. You can do all those things right there within that tool. You essentially swipe a credit card. We check to make sure it's TV quality, obviously, and we might go back and forth in certain scenarios, but we're really quick on those responses, and then you can fight your campaign. So you can build an ad in roughly 3 minutes, and then depending on approval processes, get it up the next day.
Well, this is fascinating, Kris, because I'm thinking back in the day where you would have to beg somebody in the agency space to be, an underwriter or do, just through their good of their hearts to produce stuff, right? And then generally you would have to live with it for so long because it was so arduous and expensive and tough to build that if you had a crappy ad, you had to live with it, right? This is fascinating that it seems to me like you can be so responsive to whatever the needs are of your nonprofit.
Well, we also want to get to a point too where we're doing multivariates on this stuff. We want to be able to change, campaigns mid-flight, change creative, all these good things. We want to bring the power of what programmatic advertising and digital and what all marketers are doing today. But I want to bring it to the nonprofits because I think overarchingly they need that support, and they're already starting to kind of do a lot of these things. I think within Meta and other scenarios where they're testing and doing other creative and getting really good attribution and getting good data that they want as far as what they're trying to achieve with their different KPIs. I want all that to happen because they can do that in CTV, but they've been priced out, right? Because the typical price for most CTV inventory is $30, right? If not more, depending. And with that comes a lot of risk and a lot of worry and a lot of, is this going to do what I needed to do? And where's the impact? And it's, it makes your money very scared. And we want them to be able to work with this in the same ways that they're currently working with Meta and just be able to get CTV, which is, I think in the nonprofit space, very powerful because you get that full immersed experience, you get multiple people in the room, and you're able to tell your story in an impactful way through a 30-second ad and still get that conversion that you're looking for.
Okay, so I love it. Let's frame this up. 30-second ad spot, roughly $30 is the
market rate, yeah.
Market rate. And that, again, that has a lot of variance, but just to kind of break it down a little bit, what does it look like when you're thinking about buying this, what we would in the past call remnant space?
Yeah.
How do those prices drop? What is that? What might that look like? Because I'm assuming you've got to buy these in packages and give us a feel for that.
Yeah, so we get a lot of the inventory we get is donated to the AdGood Foundation, in which case a lot of our costs and fees that we charge the nonprofits is really just tied to our operations. Obviously, we have to pay licensing fees for tech and ad ops and all those different scenarios, as well as the reporting, because we give the publishers we're calling impact reporting. So we let them know essentially how much inventory have they donated total, how many nonprofits have accessed this inventory, what sort of impressions are they getting on this inventory. And then we want to work with the nonprofit specifically too, and be able to tell those publishers how much did you help driving donations. I think overarchingly the publishers want to do good, and they do. It's just very hard for them. So they'll work with 4 or 5 nonprofits. Like some of the biggest ones will work with 10, but it's a lot of work for them. And what our whole goal for this is to make it as easy as possible for them to do good, so that they can maximize their impact as well. And in a lot of ways, the publishers look at us like a nonprofit consolidation platform, so that they can do good at scale across causes, across whatever they want to do. And it's really kind of grown into a bigger thing because everybody wants to do that stuff, but unfortunately they also have their full-time jobs and all their other priorities that they have to do, and they're only able to do a small bit of it, kind of like you mentioned. But with what we're doing here, we're just trying to open it up at scale for everybody, to help the nonprofits and to help the publishers as well. And so to talk a little bit more about how does this go about, how do we collect this, by doing all those things, we're essentially able to just consistently add and grow our inventory. Currently, right now, we're about 450 million available impressions. We're actually onboarding a partner next week, which will probably put us well over 1 billion avails per month.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you had a budget, or if you were trying to figure out what a budget might be, and let's say you're a small to mid-sized nonprofit, what is a logical number to just start out and say, look, if you can't meet this number, then this isn't going to be for you?
Yeah, so like I said, we want the full scope of this. So to utilize the ad manager, if you're running in a small town and doing a small campaign, we've set the budget minimums to be able to utilize that tool at $250 minimum spend. So I organize this in a specific way. My son's special needs, and I coach his soccer team. And so when I did this whole aspect of what we're doing, I wanted to create a tool where parents even could get together and say, hey, let's get some more kids into this program. So I could go out and work with 5 other parents, have them all pitch in $30, and essentially be able to run a campaign here in my community, have 7 kids show up. They're invited to birthday parties. They know what camps to go to. Maybe they're new to town. They have now the parents have people that they can connect to. So it's much more than just the running of media in a larger area. It's also about bringing impact in smaller areas that are hyper localized. And then beyond that too, obviously that tool can scale up to whatever you need it to. But once we get into the managed service aspect that we offer, where we handle everything for you, you give us the creative ad, any of that stuff. And honestly, again, if you don't have an ad, you can still utilize our ad manager, generate that ad for yourself. And for $250, you can download that ad and own it. You can run it across Facebook. You can do whatever you want. You can use it as your video editor. We don't care. We're here to help. You download that ad for $250. We can run that for you, managed service. You can use it wherever else you'd like. And typically when we do managed service, we do set a minimum of $3,500. We're trying to keep it as low as possible. And that's kind of our benchmark that we could keep it at to be able to run that campaign. And then we still kind of help you with targeting so that you're maximizing your budget. Because sometimes a nonprofit will come in and say, hey, we want to come in and run a $3,500 campaign nationally. And I'm like,
not going to work.
Well, I'm just not going to take their money. It's just I'm like, well, you're not going to get the impact. Nobody's going to be happy. This is not, a good fit,
Right.
But we do get them to kind of bring in their targeting a lot more, focusing on zip codes, on DMAs and all these other good things so they can get the impact that they want.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit, because how do we look at our localized CTV? I mean, that's one of the things about CTV. It just seems so expansive and so global, and it's hard to think, wow, but wait, we can really target our community. How does this work? And how should we be thinking about it?
Well, I mean, you can think about having localized messages for each different campaign that you're trying to run. Even if you're going national, like if you're in a specific state, you can really craft a message that's organized for that audience. And I think too, we can target all the way down to the zip code. So it's kind of whatever you want when you're running.
Wow, you can target down to the zip code.
Yeah.
Holy moly, that blows my mind.
Yeah, and recently I was looking at mailers because obviously we're a nonprofit, and I'm trying to get out to more nonprofits because a lot of the people, obviously, that work at AdGood, we came from ad tech and distribution and all these other scenarios. So the nonprofit side is actually fairly new to us, but we're all trying to just do a good thing. And so we're trying to get out to more nonprofits. And so I was like, okay, maybe we look at doing a mailer. And I went and looked at the pricing to do mailers for a lot of this stuff. It is, price wise, it's a lot once you kind of look at it, right? Because each piece kind of really adds up to a lot. And when you think about that, and you think about what you can do with the newsletter and all, I get why the newsletters do so well. But also too, think about what you can do with TV. Almost kind of the same aspect. It doesn't have the touch and feel, but if you can get those viewers to see it during the content that they love and it really resonates, it not only helps the nonprofits, but the publishers on their side too. There's a huge brand loyalty lift for publishers, the platforms when they're watching this, because when any sort of brand is tied to a cause of any way, shape, or form, that brand loyalty goes up considerably. So
absolutely. I mean, that's rule number one in selling sponsorships, which, by the way, after the nonprofit show, we'll talk about the nonprofit show. But if you want to get to nonprofits, but that's an aside. I'm putting on my sales hat here. I think that that's one of the magical pieces of getting corporate sponsors, and that is that they want to communicate good stewardship, that they have good community leadership, all of that. I mean, that's kind of one of those marriage success stories from nonprofit to for-profit. So I love that you said that, because I think that's a real thing. And if you can target down to a zip code, holy moly, that is crazy powerful. If you would have asked me how you could target down, I would have been like wishful thinking. County. I would have never guessed you could funnel it down that much. That's crazy.
And there's also all kinds of other things that you can target against. We have access to all the third-party targeting pretty much out there. If not, we can easily get it. And so depending on what sort of audience packages you're trying to build, if you're looking for, we work with smaller like opera houses and community theaters and all kinds of stuff. And they'll come in kind of heavy, like, oh, we want, people that love opera between 30 and 50 or, these other scenarios. And, it gets to become tough because really when you add that targeting on comes additional cost because it's all third party and we can't access it. Even though we're working really hard to try to get better deals and discounts for all nonprofits on this, because we don't charge for that. That's just a pass-through of costs from the third party through us to the nonprofits. So we're really trying to negotiate pricing down as much as we can on all of our pieces of technology and all of our partnerships, so that we can get us the maximum that we can for the nonprofits. If it was up to us, we wouldn't charge anything for this. And we're working as hard as we can to try to figure out a scenario to get the cost down as much as possible so that we can give the most amount of impressions per dollar for the nonprofits.
Absolutely. Well, we don't have a lot of time left, and I could be talking to you all day long because, as we mentioned in the green room, my background is in newspaper publishing. And so ad space and remnant space and all those things was like, it was a part of my life for 30 years. But this was always a big question, and that is viewer, in my case, readership measurements. How do you do this? Because it's such a new dawn. And if you can tackle that piece, it's got to make it a lot more palatable or an easier risk, if you will, for a nonprofit to take. So what does this look like?
So right now, we mostly just have campaign reporting, but we're actually currently running a beta test for a full attribution platform. Our plan is to roll that out in Q4. And what that will entail is every viewer that sees an ad, we'll give the nonprofit a pixel to put on their websites, essentially a tag that they manage on their website. We put it there. And then from that point, when any viewer that sees the ad that then goes to their website, we know what traffic went to the website from the ad. And then in addition to that, we know what they did on the website. And then we can also do aspects where we can API connect into their CRM systems, like HubSpot or Salesforce, and actually get the data from there so that we can understand full funnel of what's happening. So we can understand, who went to the website, what do they do on the website, how many of those people converted and did something on the website, and or ideally full conversion KPI would be understand how much they donated so that we can actually start giving that full return on ad spend for what they're going after. So we're running the test right now. Again, we're launching in Q4. Now, to be able to get this level of data, it does require a lot of impressions. So it's a little bit higher of a budget. Typically, you don't want to have less than around 4 or 5 million impressions to be able to get the true data to get that true return. And the other beautiful piece to this is because we'll have that pixel there, we'll also be able to track all the other kind of marketing sources to see like what's driving the most traffic, and we'll give you a leaderboard to show you all the best sources. Look, we may not be at the top, but we don't care. I know we're gonna be in the top 3. That's obvious, but like I think that view needs to be there so that every specific nonprofit knows what channel is performing best for them and look at it as a holistic package. You know, our goal overarchingly is to turn marketing from a cost center to a profit center for nonprofits, so they can actually drive and get the donations they want, and also drive and get the awareness they want.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a new day. I mean, with the change in administration and funding changes that have been so dramatic, we are having to look back into what it is we're doing, not just sending the same mailer every November for the, year end. And we've got to become more literate in this space and understand what the options are. So I have been fascinated by this conversation. I could talk to you for hours because I just feel like this is such a kind of like a vanguard thing to do. It's very basic in many ways, but I think we were so priced out with our concepts of advertising on TV or broadcast, even radio, right?
Yeah.
To look at this, it seems to me that it used to be if you didn't have a media sponsorship, media partnership, you were never going to have this advantage. And now this is a lot more real and even more targeted. I think it's just such an exciting thing. And I can't wait to see, how AdGood marches forward. Really exciting. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's not just me. I have a great CRO that works with me as well. Craig's a huge asset to the team, and he knows the publishers. He's been in broadcast and streaming for years, and his name's Craig Heidi.
CRO, help us out. What does that mean?
Chief Revenue Officer. He handles all the sales in all the donated media, as well as helps getting connections for all the nonprofits.
Awesome. Well, Kris Johns, this has been really fun. CEO and founder of AdGood has been with us today on the Nonprofit Show. You can check out adgood.org and learn about their work, where they're going. I found Kris on your website. It was great to learn the vocabulary and kind of get the idea of what the structure could be. Because I think for a lot of younger marketers of nonprofit work, this is something that hasn't been on their radar, or even in broadcast and radio. It's been more print or social. And so it was really cool to see, how you all are working and what's going on. Really, really fun. We'll need to get you back on and explore this more. Again, check out adgood.org and really consider this amazing opportunity. I feel like, Kris, well, nobody really knows about this is the good time to get in, right? Like before the competition, everybody's like, because we have 1.8 million registered nonprofits in America. And I mean, I feel like this could be one of those things where there's a gold rush, right?
Yeah. Well, we're just getting started. We launched in January. It's been a little over 7 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as scale goes, we all kind of came from startups and built lots of ad tech and performance marketing platforms and distribution platforms. And there's a lot more good stuff to come. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. Well, we want to definitely keep in touch so we can take a look at that with you. Awesome. We keep in touch with our presenting sponsors every day. We've done nearly 1,400 episodes of the Nonprofit Show. We are now in our 6th year, and that's because of these amazing partners. Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Interim Executives Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, Fundraisers Friday, and Holdings for Good. These are the folks that march with us day in and day out. Kris, we end each and every episode with this mantra, and I'm going to be thinking about you because in a startup with all these things going on, you're trying to educate the marketplace. You're trying to do new things in a newer marketplace as well. The message goes like this: to stay well so you can do well.